who was a student of mine here back in the early 90s. And I graduated with a master's degree from the department in 95. And he went back down to Brazil. And since then, he has been in basically the commercial sector, not the government sector. He has worked on commercial fish farms. I think you'll see one, specifically one, raising a native Brazilian catfish down there. And now he's part of a consulting company with two other students of mine who are down there in Brazil. I consider them the Brazilian mafia, and I'm very proud of them as their leaders amongst those that are trying to advance aquaculture in Brazil. So without further ado, Joa Campos.
Thank you, Dr. Lushin, for the invitation to be here. War Eagle, everybody. I'd like to thank Professor Daniels here for allowing me to speak a little bit to you guys about what's going on in Brazil. It's quite a lot actually going on. The country is really growing. And why are you hearing about Brazil? Professor Daniels just showed it's a big country. There's a lot of potential. You probably heard that in the next 20 or 30 years, we need to increase aquaculture production by 20 to 30 million tons. And where is that going to come out? You know, I see a lot of people from Asia here that's with the current level of technology could be maxed out. So there's Africa and probably South America. And within these two areas, my belief is that Brazil is going to get a very large share of the increase in production. So I'm just going to give you an idea of what's going on there. You better pay attention because Professor Daniels say that will be on the final, so you better take notes and stuff like that. But Brazil is a very big country. You know, continental Brazil is bigger than the continental U.S. Now we're talking about 200 million inhabitants, so it's also a big country population-wise. Now we've got a large coastline here, about 85,000 kilometers. It's all in metric units, so if you those not familiar, just transform it. The country is basically divided into 5 main regions: the north, northeast, center, southeast, and south. Now we're talking about 3,000 miles from here to here, so it's quite right. This is very tropical. This is where the Amazon forest is, all this region here, and this is a subtropical, almost temperate zone. Weather here in the south is almost as cold as here in Alabama. Okay, just rough an idea. And this is what the aquaculture production in Brazil is from 98 until 2009, which is the last data that we have. And just to make a point here, the data that we have, official data in Brazil, is not exactly exact science. Okay, so it's a lot of estimates. But it's been growing, and now we got a little down point here in 2005, 2006, so some crisis with the Brazilian currency getting overvalued, but it's still growing back up again. It has been growing for about 10 to 15% per year, and basically working with the internal market. So most fish that are grown in Brazil are sold in the internal market. You see here most of the fish, most of the continental aquaculture here is fish farming. It's 99% fin fish production. And there is some marine aquaculture, which is about 100% shrimp. There's almost no saltwater fish, marines, fish being raised in Brazil. It's only marginal, very small things other than shrimp. And about the continental aquaculture, we're talking about 99.5% fin fish. There's some little bit alligator, a little bit of turtles, but almost nothing that really counts in terms of numbers. So it's been growing. We are slightly up above 400,000 tons. Chile would be about 650,000 tons. But I predict that in about 5 years, Brazil will top Chile in total production. Now, we got many different species. This is something that is a blessing, but at the same time, it works against us. Because these species here are just a few of them. These are actually only the Amazon species here on this slide here. There are many others, but we have a very diverse river system. We got the Amazon River system, the Paraná River, San Francisco. There are plenty of fish with great potential for aquaculture. You know, some of these fish are just amazing, and they will definitely be grown in large quantities in the future. Some of them, like for example, this is the pirapitinga. Today, it's a fish from the Amazon, and China today is the biggest producer of pirapitinga in the world. And it's They imported. This is the arapima. You probably have heard it. It's one of the largest freshwater scaled fish in the world. It's also starting to be cultured many places. In Thailand, you can go fee fishing for arapima in several reservoirs. So these are international fish today. You know, people are just going to be raising them everywhere. The aquaculture production in Brazil it's distributed, it's a little concentrated in the south with basically some extensive carp production, although these numbers are not exactly. But the south is by far the worst region in Brazil for raising fish because of the lower temperatures, especially in the winter. Now, we're talking about northern and northeast and center-west. Here it's southern Portuguese still. These are regions where you have almost no winter, and the coldest months, the water temperature will basically go down to 20 degrees Celsius, not less than that. Here you have full-time 26 to 32 degrees. So it's kind of concentrated a little bit on the south, basically because these are the most populated areas of Brazil. The southeast is the most populated in the south. So we've got a lot of people working here. But you see the price of fish, these are reais, Brazilian reais per kilo. They are actually higher in the north because that's where people really like to eat fish, because they're used to freshwater fish, and this is what they have. You have the Amazon River that's running right here. This is the mouth of the Amazon, runs right here, and that's where people really enjoy, and they pay for fish, and they pay top money for a good freshwater fish. These numbers, just disregard these numbers, but I just want to show you about on a percentage rate. Tilapia is the main species in Brazil. Okay, it's the most produced, and you can see it's basically produced in the northeast part, the southeast, and the south. So it's about a third of each part, a little bit on the central west too. The roundfish, which is the group of these three species that are closely related, this is the tambaqui, called in Spanish cachama, or also gamitama. This is the pacu, and this is the pirapitinga. They all these species are very similar, have similar ecological habitats, similar feeds, position on the feed chain. They are basically produced in the north and in the central west part of the country. These are more tropical species. This is the very tropical species, and these two to tolerate better temperatures. And carps almost entirely in the south of Brazil. Now, this is common carp, grass. This is silver and a big head. There's not many of these here, but still quite a lot of common carp. Now, these other species here, which are all native to Brazil, of course, without the trout and catfish, there was just some production of catfish, also could be regionally important in some parts of the country. Okay, but still, now you can see the tonnage produced in 2007, which is the last time I have numbers for specific species like these. They're not that much. Now, they're not really too many fish. But it is growing. Now, there are niche species, and they will definitely have some potential for the future. Trout is very limited in Brazil to high altitude areas, because of the tropical temperature. So only in high altitude, there's not much room for expansion. But channel catfish could expand, but it just has not been expanded. It's been raised in Brazil for 20 years, and it's really not picking up, basically because I think there are better alternatives, and the marketing, people just don't know the species. So people really they tend to grow what the market wants, and the market is usually pays more for a fish they know, which is the native species. Well, we'll talk about the specifics. Now, the aquaculture industry in Brazil today, it's valued about $600 to $700 million. This is a rough estimate of total gross production. We're talking about a lot of small farmers. This is an estimate from the Ministry of Aquaculture and Fisheries, and basically this considers everyone who has a pond and has ever sold a fish. Now, this is a lot of people who do fish farming, but there are not exactly 100,000 commercial fish farmers right now. But there are a lot of people right now, already 500,000 people, relying on aquaculture as a way of living. And this is a significant number of people in Brazil. For the next 10 years, this is, of course, an estimate. Who can guarantee something like this? But I think, in my opinion, that we have the potential, and that everything looks like we're going to have at least a 10% growth rate for the next 10 years. I think it's very unlikely that it grows less than this unless the world crisis just blows everything to pieces, and who knows. But if things keep on as they are, Brazilian is still in quite a good moment. Its economy, let's see how it gets contaminated with all the crisis here in the States and Europe. But so far it's been really good down there. Now we keep ourselves quite a bit busy with aquaculture sector growing. Now there's a lot of demand for jobs and stuff like that. So what you're going to see a lot in Brazil. You're going to see a lot about cage. We're talking about specifics of the cage culture. You're going to see a lot of pond culture. But most today these are the two main systems that we are using in Brazil. Now, how are we doing right now? Today, the sector there's very low integration. There's the farmer, there's a processing plant, but they're not linked together. There's a fingerling producer and there's a feed mill, and everyone is very independent. Now the processing plants, which should be leading the way, are still small compared to what you have in the States or other parts of the world. They start with a big farm that starts processing their own fish, and many times they may buy fish from the neighbors around. They may or may not. So it's very independent from the producers. That is sometimes good because the producers can sell the fish the other way. There's a lot of direct sales, like the producers gets their fish and sells to fee fishing operations. This is still a significant market in Brazil. It sells directly to a supermarket chain who has, for example, a place just to slaughter the fish and just sell the fish, whole fish on a round. So, but anyway, the number of processing plants is growing. When I came back from Auburn, it was about 16 years ago, I could count all the processing plants, and there was like 2 or 3 in the country. And that's only 15 years ago. Today there's like dozens, or almost, could be even 100 already, but still fairly small. But they are more and more increasing and absorbing a greater percentage. Usually you don't have contracts. The producer, it's on a spot market thing. What's the price of the fish and how is it right now? Should I sell it? So that limits the growth. You can't plan too much. And as I told you, a lot of stuff being sold directly. The fingerling producers, they are also autonomous. What means that they go there, they produce the fingerlings, and then they just put them for sale, and then the producer just comes and buys it. So there's very little contracts. I'm going to need 500,000 fingerlings of tambaqui for next year's season. Now, people are not yet planning that much ahead, and because there's a lack of professionalism in the aquaculture in Brazil. There's a long way to go towards that. Today, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of small size. People producing 2 tons to 200 tons. That's a lot of people just got a pond in the backyard of their farm. Usually fish farming isn't the main activity in the farm. So they could be a soybean farmer and have 2 ponds, or a cattle farmer and have 3 ponds, whatever. And this is basically utilizing the lowlands in their property, or a specific area or a reservoir they already had, to start producing some fish. Now that's a plus, because they don't rely only on the fish farming, but they don't put enough energy to make it a real professional thing so far. There are 2 producers already that are working over 5,000 tons per year. One producing tilapia in cages, which is Netuna, which is the biggest one in the northeast of Brazil, and Tamborá, basically producing those random fish, basically the tambaqui and the tambacu, which is a crossing of the tambaqui and the pacu. There are many others on the 1,000 tons, on the 2,000 ton range, but still growing. These are it's a new thing for us, large scale production. It's scattered all over the country, and this is also a problem. Now, right here, when I was here, I was fortunate enough to have a chance to work on a catfish farm in West Alabama for a year. Just being there every day working, and it's very concentrated. Catfish, so it's one species in one area: West Alabama, Mississippi Delta, Louisiana. But it's very close. Now in Brazil, we're just all over the place, so it's very hard to focus and direct investments and research. Now, which species do you go to? Oh, you go to the arapima, you go to the tambaqui. Oh no, let's do the tilapia. And where do you go to? Oh, there's in the northeast. So it's kind of hard, and so the efforts are kind of spread out in the country. So it's a little loose like this. There are very few concentrated clusters, and I think that's a problem because you cannot invest enough in a cluster to make it more efficient on the logistics parts, on the technology part, to develop specific technology for that species on that location, and that needs to get done. Production today almost entirely in the Brazilian internal market. Our currency exchange rate today is still doesn't allow for much exports. I was head of a company. We were producing native catfish, but we were also buying. We had a processing plant fit to export to the U.S. and Europe, and we had a lot of interest in tilapia. So we started buying tilapia from producers. They were about 350, 400 miles away from us. We were processing the tilapia and selling them to the States as fresh fillets. Now we started doing this. Then I left the company, and they kept doing this for about 3 years, and they just couldn't put up with it because the Brazilian real when I was there it was about 250 reais to $1, and right now it's only about 170. So with that currency exchange rate, there's no way we can export it. People will pay more in Brazil for the fish than they can export it. So basically, everything today stays within the country. Okay. Let's just mention that. Now, what's going to be happening right now is I showed you a picture with a lot of species right now, and what's happening is we need to consolidate. We need to choose what species we're going to focus. So, on a fairly recent move, Brazil has structured its government research institution called Embrapa, which is a federal government that's done a lot of work in the agricultural sector. They structured an aquaculture branch of it. Now, and they decided to focus on a few species. There are basically three native species, one is the arapima, that's the big scale catfish, not catfish, the big scaled fish. There is the cachara, which is a catfish, freshwater catfish. And there's the tambaqui, which is also an Amazon fish. You're going to be showing a little bit more details on that. You don't need to have everything written down for you later. And also tilapia and shrimp. These are two exotics. So these are the species that the Brazilian government in general is going to be focusing research so we can have a technology package ready. Although people are already raising them for sure. Okay, there's increased processing working basically on the internal, but some also working towards external markets, top niche productions. Now there's a big demand nowadays. Now if I can get a responsibly produced exotic Amazon fish in Europe, people will pay top euro for something like that. So this company that I work for, they are exporting these pintado, which is the name of this catfish. They're exporting these fillets vacuum packed already, vacuum packed in the supermarket, German and Swiss supermarket labels for 18 euros a kilo. So that's quite a high price. So this is something that there are niche markets right there that can be explored for something like that. This is highly exotic. Of course, it needs to be top quality. No one's going to pay top money for a less quality fish. But there is market for this kind of things. The average producer in Brazil is growing. The size of it's growing. When I came back, everyone was small. Now everyone would produce 2, 3, 10, 20 tons. A guy who had 5 hectares, which is about 12 acres of ponds, it was a huge guy. Now today there's many people with that acreage, that size production in Brazil, and people There are some people who have 500 hectares, okay? People are getting more professional. Still, we do have a long way to go so we can really call ourselves a professional aquaculture production. You know, people, it's fairly... if you want to start an aquaculture in Brazil, you need to have an environmental permit. You know, you need to apply. You need to go to the state environment agency. You need to have a kind of project done. You need to apply. There's always a lot of bureaucracy. But after that's done, let's just do it yourself. You know, where do you get the information? No one's going to be judging how efficient the ponds are that you're building. So there's a lot of stuff done that's not done properly, and then people suffer almost the rest of their productive lives with poor built facilities, and you see a lot of that in Brazil so far. But people are getting more and more professional. There's a lot of new producers coming from either other rural activities. So I'm a cattle farmer, I want to go into fish farmer, but also there's enough interest for financial institutions and venture capitalists looking into aquaculture right now and say, oh, this might be interesting. Right now, for example, we're making a proposal for a 500 million real fund, which is about $300 million fund to invest in aquaculture. It's a fund based from a big petrochemical, Petrobras company, and they want to put up this fund for investors just to come in and invest in aquaculture. So this is something that, you know, starting right now in Brazil. Okay, so new people are coming in, and also foreign investors. You know, we got people from Europe. Got people from Chile. Got the salmon industry. They got hit very badly last couple of years. You've probably heard about the disease problem they had. The economics is really hurting them right now because Brazil actually this year might be close to getting the U.S. spot, and is the second biggest larger importer of salmon from Chile. Probably not this year, but in some months of this year, Brazilian imports have surpassed the U.S. imports. So what's happening is the Chileans are, well, these guys like fish, so they have technology, have a lot of stuff there. They have investors, so they're coming into the country and looking at, is there opportunity for us to invest? So this is something that's, a lot of people are coming in, and there are a lot of Chinese people also looking, you know, of course, from all parts of Asia. Niche markets for sure. You know, you got a production, for example, right outside São Paulo, which is a large metropolitan area. If you can produce a freshwater fish right there, there's some recirculation, intensive recirculation systems right there to produce like arapima. There's a couple of guys doing that, and they're just selling it for whatever they want, basically. It's really interesting. And more health code fiscalization, which is farmers could just sell the fish anywhere. They will just take the fish, you know, just put them, kill them on ice, or not even that, just let them dry, take them to the supermarket and sell them. This is getting less and less permitted right now, just basically to sanitary. Now, the production system that we use the most, basically, Dr. Rouse. It's all right. Basically, excavated ponds and farm ponds or reservoirs are the main production system so far. Now, they're fairly easy to build. There's the topography in Brazil's most of the part is kind of hilly, so you can easily just building dams. Now, you got all sorts of sizes. Now, you got people who have reservoirs with 30 hectares producing fish. That's about 50 acres, and you got little small ponds. These guys are actually digging these ponds here by hand. Now you have this big variety of production, of types of production systems, you know. So these guys here have 100 square meters of ponds, and you can have goes as big as it goes. Very different stocking densities, as you can imagine. You know, you probably have heard a little about this. Now, there are people almost not using feeds, only using some fertilizer, agricultural byproducts, and there on the other side, there are people with aerators, good quality feeds, recirculating water. So there's a big variety of production systems going on here, of course, depending on water, aeration, technology, feed quality, and everything. Well, this is a very typical reservoir. This is in the north part of the country. This is basically cattle farm. You know, just put a dam here and you get yourself a reservoir, and here another one. So just start building these reservoirs. The cheapest way to build a significant acreage, and this is one of the corners of tambaqui production today in Brazil is basically done on a system like this. This is another one right here. Now these guys are just getting ready, they're just finalizing a harvest right here. And also it's drying down draining down the pond to get the fish out. Okay. There are of course some earthen ponds. This is a project I made here in the central part of Brazil. It's about 89 hectares, which is about 150. 89, that's 90, almost 200 acres. 200 acres of ponds here. This is more intensive. They have aerators on every pond, and this is a more intensive system here, basically to produce native species of fish. These ponds are about 3 acres in size. No, 5 acres, 3 hectares. Cage is also very popular. In 1995, Dr. Schmidt came to Brazil with this new technology for Brazil, which was just the low volume, high density cages. I don't know if you have heard about this, but this kind of really changed what Brazil did within the aquaculture sector. It allowed for a massive increase of tilapia production, which is just perfect for this kind of system. So these low volume cages up to 18 cubic meters, usually about, biggest ones are 3 by 3 by 2 meters. They are very easy, they're very cheap to build, easy to build. You do it almost at home, A lot of small shops building these in Brazil. Some more advanced, more technology, others some very homemade stuff. But this really allowed to use large reservoirs. And we do have a lot of area in reservoirs. There's over 5.5 million hectares of large reservoirs in Brazil, and that's only the big ones. That's only the big hydroelectric dams, not counting the farm ponds that can be used. So this is like 10, 12 million acres of water that has almost no use other than generating electricity. Now there's a little bit maybe navigation stuff and recreational use, but you could use all that for fish farming. Of course, and it needs to be taken care of so you have sustainable production and all. They don't pollute the hell of it. But there's a lot of water there to be used. This changed it a lot. This allowed Brazil to increase. And one other thing that this system, that cage system, also allowed Brazil to evolve is that when you raise fish in this type of system, you need a very good quality feed. When you have a pond, a fish can get part of its nutrition, some vitamins and stuff, from natural production. In the cages here, you need to have a good quality feed, especially if you put 100 kilos of fish per cubic meter or more, or twice that much. So that really made the feed mills in the country to improve the quality of their feeds, and that has a very good ripple effect on the entire aquaculture industry in Brazil. Usually there are metal screens coated with PVC. We've got a lot of fish with teeth in Brazil. They've got the small piranhas, there's alligators, everything. So you need to take care so that your fish don't escape. And this type of system is great. Now when you start getting a big farm, you start having a large number of units. So there are farms today that have 600, 700, 800 cages. Now how do you control that? You're a manager. Each cage is a production unit. Now, how much feed you put in, how many fingerlings, what size they are they uniform or not? So that's a problem with that. It's great for the small guy, allows for almost anyone to start producing fish, but when you start getting big, it's hard to control and manage. So you can see, for example, here, there's about 400 cages in this site. I'm not showing the entire site here, but it's really something that really gets a lot of work to manage all these things here. Mainly tilapia is the fish that's raised in these systems, and it's really good because you can go into aquaculture with a lot less investment. You don't need to buy the land. You don't need to build the ponds, okay? And main thing, you don't need to manage the water quality. Now, as long as you place your cages right, don't pollute your system, so you start having plankton blooms and low oxygen in the reservoir, you're okay. So this allows you almost as close as at least I know, to a recipe of how to raise fish. You put so many fish, throw so much feed per day, and then you're boom and running. Though this allowed for a lot of people to start raising fish at a decent level and start exporting. This was the base of the Brazilian tilapia production that went to exports. Okay? So there's a lot of large bodies. This is a map of the São Paulo state, which is a state in the center. You can't see it too well here, but you can see all these areas here which are the hydroelectric dams all over the place. So there's millions of hectares suitable for the reservoirs in Brazil. Now, with these big producers, the big producers are already moving to larger cages, and I think that makes sense. So you don't have to deal with near as many units of production. So right now, we got all this cage system for this is a tilapia production site here in the north of Brazil, and there are several others already moving into these salmon cages, basically. But of course, they need there's a few adaptations. They don't need to be as sturdy because they're not on open seawater. No, there's almost very little waves and stuff, but still, it's still allowing for production. One interesting thing is they cannot be as deep as the salmon cages. Salmon feed would sink and fish will eat in the column. Now we cannot feed as much tilapia if you put in like a 6 meter deep here. There's not enough space on the surface to feed them right, so we need to limit it to about 2 to 3.5 meters. So this is something that we learned on this kind of system here. But this is very new in Brazil. There are only about 3 sites today still working. But a lot of people, the big ones, everyone is looking into this kind of system. Tilapia is the most important species. This is about 130 tons in 2009. It's the last. Today, I believe it's already ready at 150. Okay, and why tilapia? No, you probably know this already. Very easy to produce fingerlings. It's very rustic, grows fast. Tolerates handling. It adapts very well to just about any way you wanna raise it in a pond, in a cage. It will grow quite well with 28 to 32 crude protein feeds. I don't know if you ever tried it. It's a great quality fish. Has mild flavor, no bones, and there is a big internal and external market for it. So this is why tilapia. One thing that's interesting also, it goes well in a higher salinity water. There's some places in Brazil it's been grown. It does actually have quite a good quality fish when you do that. And in Brazil, you can get market size, which is about 600 to 1.2 kilos. People tend to like a bigger fish in Brazil, and approximately 4 to 9 months, which is pretty decent. It depends a lot on where you are in Brazil. If you have summer or hot temperatures all year long, you do better. Today, producers are averaging about 1.6 to 1.8 feed conversion with commercial feeds for tilapia. This is a good producer would do 1.6, and a bad one would go probably, of course, if you're really bad, you're going to waste a lot of feed. But you can do better. But with the current commercial feeds, this is what you usually work around. Okay, and the main culture system is by far this low volume, high density cages. These are the main tilapia production areas here in cages and reservoirs. Also here in the São Paulo, this is the state I was showing you the map. Also in reservoirs in this area. And here you have the original area where tilapia developed in Brazil, in the Paraná state. But they are mainly in cages, in ponds, sorry. So basically this is where tilapia is produced in Brazil. This area is kind of forbidden. In the Amazon region, there are very strict environmental limitations for tilapia production because it's an exotic species, although there are some. And looking a little bit here about how the production has been growing, last number here is about 130. We believe that around 2000, today we're about just at 150, and I believe that we're going to be growing like this here, at least on a 10%. So in about 5 years or 4 years, we should be close to 250,000 tons of tilapia being produced if things keep going as they are right now. Now these are what we call the round fish. There are 3 species, the pacu, the tambaqui, and the pirapitinga. These are native species of Brazil and other South American countries. They are found, the tambaqui from the Amazon region, the pacu, which is this one right here, from the Paraná River Basin, and the pirapitinga also from the Amazon Basin. Okay, they are very, very closely related. You can crossbreed all of them within them, and actually they are quite popular to produce. The hybrids are quite popular to be produced. Now, why are they? Basically, the main characteristics of these fish, it's very easy to produce fingerlings. You produce fingerlings of these fish just like you do with carp. You need to inject the spawning hormone, within when you're in the season, of course, and then they'll spawn. You need to fertilize the eggs and incubate the eggs. And then you need to get the larvae, the post-hatch larvae, to outdoor ponds, and then basically produce your fries and fingerlings from then. But it's fairly easy to be done. Okay, there's no limitation to do that once you know the basic know-how. When you have the good know-how, they grow quite well. In good conditions, you can get 3 kilos per year on growth on a tambaqui, and that is on a commercial. You can even grow more than that, but on a commercial side, on a commercial production, that's what you can get in the Amazon region. They also usually are grown on 28% feeds. Some people are actually, when you can work in even lower densities, they grow with less protein feed. They are very resistant. These fish are amazing, especially this one here, which is a tambaqui, which is by far the biggest one in volume that's produced. It's a great fish to work with. They can tolerate almost every sort of abuse, and you see them being abused a lot. I'm talking about you harvest, or if you want to transfer juveniles, just put them in a feed bag with no water. Just put about 20 kilos of fish, put it in the bag, no water. Just put them in the back of the truck, take them 10 minutes to another location, just dump them out, and you almost have no mortalities. Now, this kind of stuff that if you do that with salmon or even with a catfish, they'll be all gone. People can get away with it. So that's actually one of the reasons of their success, because they can tolerate this kind of abuse. Okay, of course it doesn't do them any good. It's against, but fish can take it. Okay, the tambaqui, which is this one here, and the tambacu, which is a hybrid, are the most commonly produced. Yeah. Go ahead.
How easy it is to catch, because that's a huge advantage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something that actually should have been here. This is a mid-column fish. Now they're swimming right in the middle of the column, and they don't jump, and they usually won't go under. So that really, if you ever seined a pond, that makes a very big difference. So it's very easy to catch in a reservoir. So you saw those reservoirs; they're not neat shaped, they're all bumpy. They may have stumps in the bottom. So if you don't have a fish with this kind of character, if you have a tilapia, for example, whoever has seined a pond here, tilapia, anyone? Yeah, not many. I'm just trying to figure out how you got. So it's hard. Tilapia will jump over the net. They will go in the mud. It's very hard. But these fish are very easy to catch. So this is something that really, really makes them suitable for this kind of large ponds. A lot of people also don't know that in the Amazon region, there's a dry season and a wet season. You got about 4 months of dry season. So people have severe limitations in water in these months. So they don't want to drain their ponds. So that's always something that also helps a lot with production. Okay, so this is the kind of system that you see a lot here. This is a Google Earth picture. These white here, this is the reflection of the clouds. Now these ponds here, they're about 50 hectares. This one here, this big one here. So these are very large ponds. This facility is not showing the entire thing. This guy here has more than 500 hectares of water in production. In ponds like this. So this is a fairly big farm. It's the biggest one in Brazil, actually. There's one guy that's growing. It's going to be bigger than this guy here, but not in one site. So this is the official number of almost 50,000 tons produced in 2009. This is another picture of tambaqui. There's some different. Let me just go back here. You got some different colorations depending on the type of tambaqui and the water, the color of the water that you raise the fish in. They can be more yellow, more black, or it depends a lot. Sometimes they're almost green, olive green. So, but basically, they're farmed in ponds or hill ponds like this here, and in a northern pond. They have a limitation. This fish will not tolerate water temperatures below 18 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this limits production in the southern part of Brazil. Of the 3 species of the roundfish that I told you, this is by far the one that grows the fastest. In the south of Brazil, there's the pacu, and people, what they do is they cross the pacu with the tambaqui in order to get the pacu's cold tolerance with some of the tambaqui's growth. So this is the idea. So that hybrid can be grown in the southern part of Brazil. Okay, but it's still not nearly as good as the original species. Brazil has just recently started a genetic program to improve quality of the tambaqui and other species. This is just to have an idea. Month. This miss here, it means month. This is a 12-month production cycle, and this is about the expected growth that we have for this fish when you have in the Amazonic region with no temperature limitations. So we're talking about 12 months with about 3,100 grams, which is pretty good production. Okay, people usually producing from 5 to 6 tons per hectare per cycle. Usually no aeration. No one has aeration. That's something almost unheard in Brazil so far. Water exchange depending on rain or sometimes spraying a little bit of water. This fish is almost impossible to kill with low oxygen. It has an adaptive lip that will just tolerate 0 oxygen for days. So you're going to see everyone else dying in the pond, and it will just hang in there. So it's an adaptation that they have because on the Amazon forest environment where it evolved, it was living in these kind of lakes where they would dry out. Okay, usually market size from 2 to 3 kilo. This 1 kilo sack. It's growth. This is what we expect to growth in the north part of Brazil inside of growth. One thing interesting is this fish. We already talk about this fish. It's a native fish. People in Brazil like it. People in Colombia, Venezuela, Peru know it and like it as well. But it's kind of a different thing. You can see it's a round fish. And it has a very unique feature. It has a very large rib cage. These are very long ribs. Now, these fish can get in nature, they can get to 20, 30 kilos. Okay, so they have a rib cage about this big here, and this is very highly prized in Brazil. Now, this is a top thing, and now people are actually exporting this to European markets. This French company is buying them and producing this smoked tambaqui ribs, portioned, everything already. And this product here just won the best new food service product in the European Seafood Show in Brussels. So there's a lot of attention right now outside of Brazil, outside of South America, with this kind of fish. So there's the potential. These are other South American catfish. This is the cachara, the pintado. This is the hybrid. Now all these fish you can just cross them between each other. These also have very good potential, excellent meat quality. They are catfishes. We have no spines in them. Very good quality fish. These are carnivorous catfish, and it's a little hard. You can see the very nice meat. Very attractive skin pattern, but the fingerling production is a little bit hard. They're carnivores. They'll eat each other out. There's a lot of cannibalism, and they're little picky eaters when they're very small, so it's kind of hard to grow them. They're very susceptible to predation. Now, cormorants, other birds really like these fish, but they grow fine, 1.5 to 2.5 kilos a year. FCR 2.1. They're usually using higher protein feeds because they have this demand. We have seen some bacterial disease. As production in the country grows, disease were inexistent 15 years ago, but today there's plenty of disease. But it's very good quality fish. Other fish that has huge potential is the arapima. We call it locally the pirarucu. It's the local name in Brazil. This is some fish that probably if one of you guys is going to stick with aquaculture in the next 15 to 20 years. I heard that 20 years ago. But anyway, this has amazing potential. This is a tropical fish. It won't tolerate cold climates, but it can grow 8 to 12 kilos a year. And actually, it can grow, some fish, it can grow to 16 to 20 kilos. We have seen some grow. So that's very, very, very large for a fish. That's almost as big as almost anything that can grow in fish. And it adapts quite well. As long as you can get the fingerlings, it's very voracious to eat. It will accept well the commercial pellets. You need to feed train them a little bit, but it's a very good fish. And one great thing, probably if you're ahead of the course already, they don't need oxygen, which is usually the first limiting factor in fish production, right? That's the first thing that nails you. Now, these fish are air breathers. Okay, they breathe air. They have an adaptive lung, So basically, you don't need to give them any oxygen. You can raise them water without oxygen. So that allows you to put a much more higher stocking density, a final density in the pond. Okay. Still, there are problems in getting the amount of fingerlings. These fish breed pretty much like tilapia or like a largemouth bass or a bluegill. They pair up, build a nest, and lay eggs. Now the thing is, it's not just automatic. You just not put a male and a female. That's another thing. Who's a male and who's a female? It's very hard to differentiate them. You just don't put two of them in a pond and expect fingerlings. It just doesn't happen like that. There are a lot. We don't know yet what triggers the reproduction. Now we know there are environmental cues, like temperature and rains, but it's not automatic. So today you cannot really guarantee that you're going to have fingerlings whenever you want and the quantity you want. And that's today what limits the production of this fish. Now this fish has pretty much the best quality meat in a freshwater fish as it gets, so it's very highly valued. Now Japanese are very interested in this kind of fish. There are people looking into, I'll buy 5 containers of this a month if you have it, or 10 or 12. So it's very big potential. They don't tolerate any cold. If even in the southern part of Brazil, we can't raise it. This is an Amazon species, so you got to make sure there's no. We can go up to 10, right? 10. Yeah. I'm just finish up here. And it also yields very hard, very big fillet. So this actually is larger than 45%. I've been processing a few right now. We've been getting over 50% of fillet. This pure meat. Okay, and excellent meat quality, as just said. And this is, I don't know if you can guys see here, one good advantage at no off flavor. You know what off flavor is, right? Well, off is that muddy taste or whatever taste, bad taste you got in fish. This fish, probably because it doesn't circulate that much water through its gills, probably because I don't know for that for sure, it basically doesn't get off flavor. You can raise it in a pond with other, like a tambaqui together. Tambaqui will be uneatable, and that fish will be just perfect. That's something that's kind of interesting. Got 2 brood stock here. This is Martin, also American, who graduated here with us here, is in Brazil working. But people do a lot of research on these fish here because all this advantage on this culture. Okay, this is one problem with this fish: is harvesting them. Now these will jump. These will jump. I don't know if there's this. Who saw this monster fish? No, that's production in I think it's Discovery Channel or National Geographic. This guy goes out fishing, and he went into a pond like that and tried to do that. And man, this is dangerous. Now these are 10-kilo fish. That's 22 pounds. Now, and they just go like an ICBM, just shooting out of the water. And I tell you, if it's a 50-kilo fish, it would just go up just as easy. They'll jump high. I've seen fish this big just go up 3 feet out of the water. So you really need to watch it if you're doing this. They have a kind of a snout here. It's really bony and stuff. You need to take care. This is an old picture. This is about 10 years old. This unfortunately does no longer exist. This is the production system in the Rio Negro in the Amazon in the cages. They do very well in cages too, but they're very voracious. Now they just attack the feed. Well, guys, thanks a lot for the attention. I think we got 10 minutes or something for questions. Oh, don't have anything? Well,
if you have to leave, you can leave, but if you want to stay for questions, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stay.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.